Hello and welcome to this Business Called Show podcast. This Business Called Show podcast has been set up by Becky Barrett, the founder of Becky Barrett Management, an established, reputable agency working with outstanding talent across stage, screen and digital media. This Business Called Show podcast has been created to support new graduates entering the performing arts industry and inspire performers seeking their next performing opportunity. We will be chatting to clients from Becky Barrett Management, as well as industry professionals such as agents, choreographers and casting directors to discover the best way to navigate this dynamic but wonderful industry we call showbiz. On today's episode, we shall be talking to Tim Edwards, a client from Becky Barrett Management. Tim is a trained musical theatre performer who has a successful career performing in many West End shows and UK and international tours. Tim is currently playing Chandler in Frenzical the Musical, and we will be chatting about life on the road and provide some handy tips on how to survive as a performer on tour. Hi Tim, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Welcome to this Business Called Show podcast.
Thanks for having me.
For our listeners, the joys of technology, we have probably tried this introduction about 5 times. So
We're about to hear the actual challenge of the actor, which is to make it sound like we're doing it for the first time.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
Should I
Let's
go for
for
it? Give the spiel from the start.
What's that podcast?
What's that podcast called? Hi Tim, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Welcome to this Business Called Show podcast. Yay!
Hooray!
It's great to have you with us today.
It's fabulous to be here.
So Tim, we're just going to get stuck in straight away. You've been in this industry for a few years now.
Yep.
Can you talk us through some of the work you've done and the different experiences that you've gained?
I can indeed. Would you like me to start at the beginning?
Yeah, go for it.
Chronological run through.
Yeah, give us that timeline.
All right. Okay. Well, I graduated from Guildford School of Acting in 2007. Dating myself a little bit there. Now you can see the age. So I went straight in. Peter Pan by Stiles and Drew at Birmingham Rep, and it was a really nice sort of way to start, sort of easing in with some new sort of theatre. I think we were the first on-stage version to be done, and then I carried that over and did it again the next year at West Yorkshire Playhouse in Leeds. In between that, I did a couple of little things like James and the Giant Peach at Southampton Nuffield. I did Departure Lounge, the musical, at Edinburgh Fringe, which was a wonderful experience. I then went over to Germany and spent 4 years there. So I started in Tarzan in Hamburg, which was with Disney. And then in Stuttgart, I did Tanz der Vampir for a year. And then I ended up going on tour in Germany, Austria and Switzerland with Grease, which was great fun. I came back and went into the first UK tour of Wicked. And then after that, I went into the West End for the first time as a swing in the Book of Mormon, which was pretty much the best thing ever. For a South Park fan like me, by the way, I should precursor that. Then I went into a touring show called All or Nothing about the rock band The Small Faces and played the lead in that. It was an actor-musician piece and my first actor-muso job. And then after that, I sort of went off and did my own thing for a while. I became a fitness instructor. I did a lot of panto over those years. I ended up doing some guest entertainment on cruise ships. And then during the pandemic, strangely enough, I felt this really weird tug of seeing people struggling, fellow actors who I could see that, I knew had been in fantastic jobs in the West End and big roles and on tour. We were all working from home or doing online content or delivering packages for Hermes. And I thought I actually kind of felt more solidarity then as an actor than I did before. And that was actually one of the things that spurred me to get. And now I'm on tour with Frensical, the musical, playing Chandler Bing. So that's where we are. I'm up to date, I think. That's pretty much covered it.
That's amazing. You've got a pretty impressive CV on you there. Just
Thank you kindly.
amazing. So can you tell us, what is it about the performing arts industry that made you want to pursue it professionally?
So my parents were both opera singers and met at the Guildhall School of Acting, but they did the opera course, and as it was very, very difficult to break into to theatre in those days as well, because there were way more hoops to jump through as far as equity and spotlight and all the getting in the room goes, and as well the world of opera is very cutthroat. When I was growing up, they always said, please, 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 please don't go into the performing arts. And of course, I took that as every time you tell a child not to do something, that's the first thing they want to do. So that's what kind of got me into it, is that I went, why? What's so horrible about it? And then started doing loads of school plays and just didn't stop, and then ended up doing National Youth Music Theatre when I was 15. And then it came round to choosing between drama school or going off and doing a degree. And my two choices, this is going to sound absolutely ridiculous, by the way. I don't think I've ever told this out loud to people. My two choices of degree were, I got into GSA to do the musical theatre course, or I got into the School of Oriental and African Studies as part of Central School of London to study Japanese music history and culture.
Wow.
So there we are.
There we go. You've heard it here first, everyone.
Yeah. I was always very interested in music, but I didn't know which way I was going to go with it. And I'm jolly glad I went the way I did, because of the fact that I just needed an active job, because I'm also a little bit of a tigger, so I can't really sit still. So there we are.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm the same. I just feel like the feeling that you can gain from working in this industry is just incredible. And yeah, no other job for me kind of gives you that same feeling. And it never feels like work, which I think is the beauty of it. You have your down days, it's hard, but when you get that job, it's really rewarding. And I think sometimes when you're on stage and you're performing, you forget that actually it is a job.
That's very true. I think we as actors have the propensity to complain a lot, but in actual fact, it's only because we're so passionate about what we do. It's sort of one of those wonderful things that they always say, that actors complain all the time, and then you just come off stage and you go, hang on a minute, what am I complaining about? I have the best job in the world. This is great.
It is the best job. So you mentioned that you're currently playing Chandler in Frensical, the UK tour. Now, can you just talk us through what life is like on tour and maybe kind of some of the pros and cons that you've experienced?
Of course, yeah. Well, it's not my first rodeo. I've toured quite a few times. And I have to say, actually, that as a person individually, I love touring, because I'm not really one of those kind of home comfort people. I'm not too worried about being in one place at any one time and establishing creature comforts or what kind of picture goes on the wall and all that kind of stuff. I really love the touring life, and so I would say the pros far outweigh the cons for me. I love the idea of going to new places, getting to see a city that I've never been to before, finding out about the culture, seeing if it has any historical significance, because I'm a bit of a history nerd. I just love touring. I think it's wonderful. And the other fact of the matter is that touring provides people with a whole brand new opportunity, which is, if you can't afford to get to London to see a West End show or any other show, when the entertainment comes to you in your town, there's this sort of gratitude that comes from an audience of like, thanks for coming over here, thanks for putting on a good show, we really, really appreciated it. And I always feel as though the gratitude that you receive through touring is just a little bit more than when you're working in, and I'm not bashing the West End at all, because it was one of the greatest experiences of my life, but for me that was just like 1 year staying in a flat in London with the living costs as they are, going there, finishing up, thank you very much, that was awesome, woo, and then you go home and you do it again. You don't get to go to somewhere somewhere up north. You don't get to go to Scotland and see parts of the country that you've never seen, or in fact the world. You know, sort of when I was in Germany touring with Greece, you know, I got to go to towns and cities that I'd never even heard of, and you know, you get to go and climb up to the castle in Salzburg and see where they filmed The Sound of Music and stuff like that. It's just a wonderful life, really.
Yeah, I also did that tour, Sound of Music tour. When I was
Oh,
in
really?
Salzburg, yep, classic. Got to get it ticked off the list if
Uh-huh.
anybody's thinking
Did you
about travelling there.
did you convince all of your castmates to do the photo around the fountain?
Oh,
Of
100%.
course you did, yeah.
You have to, like, have you been to Salzburg if you don't have that picture?
Yeah, right. Pics or it didn't happen.
Exactly. So when you're on tour, can you just talk us through kind of what a daily routine would look like? Because you are traveling around a lot.
Yeah.
What's your kind of like, what's a standard routine?
The first thing is wake up groggy-eyed, down a glass of water, and then convince yourself to get to the gym, I think is the first thing that you do. For me, it's very important to start the day right. It also helps as well whenever you find people in the cast who are like-minded. So I always, me, Chandler, and the guy playing Ross. So Chandler and Ross go to the gym every morning now. That's just a nice little routine that we've established. But I will say that that is one of those parts of touring that is also very important to keep, because you remember that your job is to do the show the same every night. So rather than recreate the same thing every day, go and do a different workout every morning and keep yourself stimulated. I then try and make it an absolute must to get out and just walk somewhere for about an hour. Doesn't matter what you see, it doesn't matter where you go. Make sure you're out in the fresh air, because that's, you know, we are creatures of the inside. You know, we stay indoors quite a lot of the day, and especially when you're in a theater or wherever you're performing, it's dark, you're getting artificial light, and it's very important to see the sun at some point, or we all turn into vampires. um Other than that, you know, eat well, eat healthy, and make sure you're staying stimulated at all times, because once you get into the theater, it's all work, you know.
Yeah, so you just mentioned there about staying healthy, and
Hmm.
you've told us that you go to the gym and you go your walks, which is great. But how do you stay on top of your nutrition? Aren't you eating at like awkward times, like hotel food? How do you kind of manage that situation?
I think it's very important to understand what works for you. I'm not ashamed to say this, that when I was on tour with Wicked in 2013, 2014, I didn't stay on top of my nutrition or my health. I didn't go to the gym. I was still eating meat and dairy, and drinking a lot of milk and stuff like that. And I basically pushed myself into a corner of being unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
So and as well, I was actually eating as a sort of a coping mechanism, because I would finish a show and feel weird and my voice would be going, and I'd think, why is this happening? So I'd sort of go and have a yogurt to cheer myself up. It's not the way to go, by the way. That's that's very bad behavior. I gave myself a slap on the wrist years later for it. But I think it's important just to remember that you're only human, and the way to stay on top of it is just to be calm, you know. Don't
Mm-hmm.
worry about it. You just plan out your meal for the day, know exactly when your cutoff point is. That's the other, I always say that the cutoff time for me to eat anything is 8 o'clock in the evening. So I will either have dinner directly after the show and grab something that I can. I mean, even if it's, I gotta say, even if it's a sandwich locally and I don't get anything else after that, it's fine, because then you're not eating right before you go to bed. You're not sleeping on a full stomach. For me as well, it's quite easy to keep on top of it, being, you know, I'm not a preachy vegan, but I am a vegan, so I don't end up eating any meat or dairy, which actually takes longer to process and can make you feel quite lethargic. So, and luckily as well, I'll say this, I'm not a cheese lover. I never was. People think I'm crazy for it, but I don't have a craving for cheese, and cheese is a big cheese is the silent killer, you know, when you come home and you need some comfort food. I remember those days. Cut off times before a performance as well, for eating, because I don't eat anything before 1.5 hours before a show.
Yeah.
Otherwise, bad things happen.
Yeah. It's not what you want on stage,
Nah,
is it?
nah.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really helpful insight into like your daily life, and hopefully we have some listeners that are getting ready to go away for the first time. They can kind of take some of that feedback on board.
Mm.
So some of our listeners may not know this, but when you're on tour, the performer is responsible for finding their own digs whilst they're away. How
Yeah.
do you personally find this setup, and do you think the industry should be doing more to support performers in finding accommodation?
I have had this conversation recently. I remember having to find my own digs for a couple of productions, and it's a real pain. It really does. It is quite irritating because obviously you're never sure of any guarantee of quality of being treated well. It's a bit of a lottery, and I think with new agreements being passed, I mean, Equity has actually just in the last few days agreed a 4% rise in touring allowances as well, which is going to help because obviously we want to be able to spend a little bit more on our accommodation to make sure it's good. But I do think that especially when you're in tours where you're staying for maybe the maximum 3 nights and then you have big chunks of traveling, I think it's actually probably in the best interest of the production company to make sure that the performers are well looked after and sort of not zombified by the time they get to a venue.
Yeah.
I'm aware that through Equity, there's you can apply to get a company rate through Travelodge. So if you go to Equity and ask for a particular code, they'll give you a company number and you get a 5% sort of discount on Travelodge on a company price. Not a lot of people know that. There's some life hacks for you. But I do think going forward, it would be to everybody's benefit if, you know, tour buses, for instance, and corporate deals with hotel chains would actually be far more beneficial because as well, now that we're living in a post-COVID society, the ideas of bubbling up need to be taken more seriously because COVID is still out there. And the best way to make sure that that stays under control is to keep your cast together, and then the other part of that is the travel. We're looking at different people trying to get up to a different location, all separately, and it could be that from one day to the next you're trying to get from, let's say, Cardiff to Dundee. That is almost an impossibility for some people, especially if they've got suitcases, and the last thing you want to be worrying about while you're traveling is, oh god, I've got to do a show tonight, I'm on a 7-hour train journey. So I think if production companies could be negotiated with to provide travel and blanket accommodation, they would see a lot better results as far as performance quality, but also morale within their companies. And I think morale within companies is something that has often been taken for granted, but is so important. And you're never going to get a good performance out of a bunch of people who are just down in the dumps.
Yeah, I think you've made some really interesting points there. And yeah, I think it is something that does need to be spoken about. And I think there is room for growth and change within our industry. And like you said, it has been a big topic of conversation recently. And I'm glad Equity have provided that 4% increase. But it's imperative that performers feel safe, like you said, so they can go on stage each night and perform to the best of their ability. If they're not
Absolutely.
happy in digs, if they're knackered from all the travelling, you're just not going to get the best out of them. That's when the voice starts to go, the physicality starts to go, they're not giving it 100%, and then, yeah, it's just not the show that of what it could and it should be. So I think it's the mental health and the well-being of performers is really important. And yeah, there should be people out there that are making sure that performers are doing okay. Because I know you said at the start that you're okay being away from home comforts.
Yeah.
But if you're on tour for a year, you know that everybody's kind of got their breaking point, and you just don't want to feel knackered, do you?
That's very true. Yeah, I think that the analogy I would use is that of a sort of a rechargeable battery. If if you're looking at your phone, or if you're looking at your watch, iWatch, or whatever the heck you've got, this isn't an endorsement, by the way, please bleep that out. cut that. No, what I mean is, if you go home and you don't have the time, or you don't have the quality of charger, if you've gone to a pound store and bought a charger that doesn't recharge your phone the full way, the next day you're going to be operating on 85% battery, and then the next day you're going to be operating on 75, and then 60, 40, 30. It's going to keep wearing down. The ability to completely recharge as a performer is gone, and you just are turning up to the building. There's a huge difference between turning up ready to work and just turning up.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There we go. That's my analogy. There's nothing else to it.
I love that though. It's great. And
But
I think it's just the reason I asked this question. It's just it's been a real big topic in our industry, and I'm glad that people are pushing for change. And hopefully, even from us having these types of conversations, the more and more it happens, something will start to get sorted, and then it just becomes an element of tour that people don't need to worry and stress about, and they can just enjoy all the fun things that you said, of being able to visit different countries, different cities, embrace the culture, and just enjoy being away with a great group of people doing a job that you love.
Yeah, especially for the young performers, I would say, to anybody coming out of drama school or going into the industry early, I know there's never a bad time to tour. For me, that's how I feel. But as well, when you first come out and you actually weirdly have very little pressure on you as an adult human. It's going to sound horrendously patronizing, but the time to tour is always now. There's never a bad time to do it. But if you can get in there early and just see everything you want to see, do everything you want to do in this sort of free environment of just understanding that you're literally getting paid to travel, it's one of the great joys. And that's why I still keep going back and doing it, because I'm in Coventry right now. I have never been to Coventry before, and I get the chance to go and do a tour of the old cathedral that got bombed out during the war, and they built this glorious new cathedral next to it, and there's incredible art there, and the university campus is great. I found an awesome CrossFit gym. Yeah, I'm going to say it, but you can actually go and become part of a local community for a short amount of time and just live it and feel it, and then you move on, and it's okay, because that's just what we do. We move. We're a nomadic species. Oh God, now I'm getting all prophetic and pretentious. I don't like this.
Oh, it's been so great talking with you, Tim. But just before we finish off, we're going to play a quick fire round.
Oh,
now,
no.
I really wish I had like an exciting title for the end of this section, but I've yet to create one. So if any listeners out there have any suggestions, then please email in and let us know. So, Tim, I'm going to ask you a series of questions that you need to answer quickly.
I've actually got a suggestion for this.
All right,
so this is a quick fire round of questions for actors, right? What about the Lovey's lightning round?
Oh, yes.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Try that.
Throwing out the chum, hoping to get a bite. That's just, I'm throwing my 50p into the ring.
Yes, I'm enjoying that. Do you know what? Maybe we need to turn into some sort of competition. Maybe we'll open up a little cheeky voting line and see where we can get some more suggestions then. But there you go, Tim. You're the only one.
You know what else you should do is
you're currently number one.
Open up the competition and see if anybody can write a jingle for it as well.
Yeah, we did talk about this. I did. I was straight to the jingle as well.
Oh, I love writing jingles.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, I'm going to send something in.
I've already got one prepped. I'll just make this up on the spot. Right, so I'm going to see if you can rise or crumble under the pressure. Dun, dun, dun. Are you ready?
I am now.
Right, easy one to start off with. Your favourite musical?
Book of Mormon.
A musical you would like to be in?
Guys and Dolls.
If you could have dinner with any musical theatre performer, who would it be?
Oh, I gotta say, my boy Richard Carson.
Nice.
Lad.
What's the number one most played song on your Spotify playlist?
Oh, you really want me to go there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I really do.
I think it's Nookie by Limp Bizkit.
Amazing.
Either that or a song called Bellicoso by Calva Louise. It is my number one gym go-to song right now. It's absolutely banging.
Love it. Name 3 musicals beginning with the letter T.
T. Why is that so hard?
I know, and you've been in 2 of them, so...
What? Oh, Tanz der Vampir, Tarzan, and why am I drawing a blank here? We're gonna have to have like a 20-second countdown here. Because I'm trying to think of anything that doesn't start with the.
I'll accept it. You can go for it.
Well, I don't want to. This is making me look really bad.
Oh, don't worry. This question makes
no.
everyone look really bad. That's why I keep putting it in the quick fire round.
Why can't I think of anything? Why can't I think of anything? Pass. I'll come back to it. Come back to it.
Panic.
I panicked.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Gasoline by Audio Slave.
Love your music choices. Can you give me your best Scottish accent?
Would you like me to do it from Glasgow or anywhere else? This is actually me just doing a bit of an impression of my uncle who's from Glasgow, but also a little bit of a shout out to George Ure, who was Bok for so many years. We used to hang out quite a lot in Wicked. So
I am going to give you that, Tim. Yes, well
is that not bad?
done.
Thanks, Hayne.
No bad. Right, finish the phrase. The way to my heart is...
To make me laugh.
To make you laugh. Oh, that's a nice one. I'm going to let you finish there. Have you thought of another musical that begins with T?
Nope.
No.
Oh, The Mystery of Edwin Drood.
There we go!
It was there. What? I had to go there.
Not bad at all. I'll give you that. You got in there.
Do you know what's going to happen?
The last minute.
We're going to hang up and I'm going to have like 7.
Yep, your full day now. All you're going to think about is musicals that begin with the letter T.
With T, yeah. Not with the, Tim.
I was kind to you. I gave you 2.
You gave me 2 that I was in. That is embarrassing. I'm going to get phone calls.
Oh, Tim, it's been so lovely chatting with you today. Thank you so much for hopping on and being our guest.
You're welcome. In my one and only appearance. Thank you. That'll be
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, I'll speak to you soon, Tim. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Amy. See you later.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to this Business Called Show podcast. For any inquiries, please email us on info@bbm.agency or give us a follow on our Instagram page at @bbmltd.